Welcome back to Tonight on Breaking. Gubernatorial elections are this weekend, and CBN has announced that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes will remain legal tender till the end of the year. That's right, everyone. Emefiele has given in to the pressure from the governors. We actually don't think that the Supreme Court had anything to do with it. If you recall, last month, the Supreme Court issued an order restraining the federal government from enacting the February 10 deadline for the expiration of the old Naira note. But after that order, nothing happened. CBN completely ignored the Supreme Court order and gave no new directives to the banks. And that's because it was not in the Supreme Court's jurisdiction to give that kind of order in the first place. So when the Supreme Court issued its most recent order on March 3rd, people were ready to just ignore the order and continue finding ways to adjust to life without cash. But then, CBN surprised us with a press release on the 13th of March that directed commercial banks to allow the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes to be legal tender operating alongside the new redesigned banknotes until December 31st. What does this mean? Well, it means that banks can dispense old Naira notes again, but the question is, do the banks even have enough new old Naira notes to dispense? And let's say that the banks do have enough cash. What is the incentive for banks to release cash? All this time, we have been assuming that the cash shortage is because of CBN. Notice that the banks have been making so much money in ridiculous transfer charges. I mean, every time I make a transfer, there's a 100 Naira charge. So what incentive do banks have to give us cash? Look, I acknowledge that the cash scarcity made a lot of people's day-to-day life miserable. I mean, at some point, I was considering trading by bartering myself. But I do think that in the long term, cashless is better for us. Just like in the long term, removing fuel subsidies will be better for us. But we can't remove fuel subsidies until we have working refineries. And we cannot go completely cashless unless we remove or significantly reduce bank charges. Because as long as we keep getting surcharged on electronic transactions, we will always prefer cash. So what's going to happen between now and December 31st? Well, my prediction is that if CBN and the banks make cash available, people will start hoarding cash and the exchange rates will hit 1,000 by the end of the year. Bread prices will double, petrol prices will double, and Emefiele will be saying, "I told you so." That's if he hasn't resigned his position before December 31st. In other news, a federal high court in Abuja ordered INEC to allow voters to use temporary voter cards in the forthcoming governorship and State House of Assembly elections, which have been slated for Saturday. As you all know, according to INEC, you cannot vote in any of the elections without your PVC. But the problem with that rule is many people who registered to get PVC were not able to collect their PVC. They tried to collect, but INEC could not find their cards. Two among those many people sued INEC. In the suit, they wanted the court to determine whether a person whose name appears in INEC's central database can be disenfranchised of the right and entitlement to vote in the 2023 election. After hearing the arguments from both sides, the judge ruled in the two voters' favor. According to the judge, the plaintiffs were duly registered and captured in INEC's database. Therefore, they should be allowed to vote. This brings us back to the question we have been asking. Why do people need PVC itself in order to vote? Why can't people use the temporary voter's card or the voter ID number they were assigned? And I know it's possible because during the February 25th elections, in some polling units, some people who were on INEC's register but who were unable to collect their PVCs were still able to vote. They simply provided their name and the digits of their voter identification number. And when the officials found them on the beavers, they were allowed to vote. And based on my experience of voting, my PVC was not scanned by any machine. Anyway, INEC is still very serious about voting with the PVCs because after the court passed their order, INEC announced that they were taking immediate steps to appeal against the judgment of the trial court. Moving on, while we were all distracted with the election results, cash scarcity, the National Assembly passed a bill that exempts its workers from the contributory pension scheme. For those of you who don't know, the contributory pension scheme is a pension arrangement we use in Nigeria where both the employer and the employee contributes a portion of an employee's monthly salary towards the payment of the employee's pension at retirement. The contributory pension scheme is a national program, meaning all government workers must participate. So now, this bill the National Assembly passed exempts its workers from participating in this scheme. According to the bill, they want to create their own pension scheme just for their own workers. The bill was passed without public hearing and what appears to be a very quick and secretive process. I don't understand. This is yet another example where the government sets up a service that is supposed to cater to all Nigerians, but yet the very people who approved the service to be set up in the first place do not have confidence in it to use it. Okay, you know what? Go ahead and set up a new pension scheme, but the rest of us have a right to be a part of it. If the pension scheme you are setting up is going to use national assets, then technically it belongs to the nation, and we, the citizens, whose taxes you are using to build the pension scheme should not be excluded from using it. That's all for tonight on Breaking. I'm John Iwodi. The governorship and State House of Assembly elections are scheduled for this Saturday. Don't forget to go out and vote. Stay safe, and I wish you a very peaceful voting process. Thank you.